Hello and welcome. I'm Robin Smith and happy to be sharing with you tonight about what I call the 9 biggest communication mistakes that create distance in your relationship. So you might want to get out your pen and paper or take some notes on your computer. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly to keep this brief. And at the end, I want to share with you about a special opportunity that's coming up very soon where you can learn a lot more about communication tools and tips and skills to implement in your relationship. So let's go through these 9 communication mistakes that create distance for you. In no particular order. Blame. So what's blame? Blame is when you're pointing out fault, and it often includes a you statement. You did it. It's your fault. You're the one who's the source of this problem. So that's what blame is. And the problem with blame is that people don't like to be blamed, and so they might pull away. And we'll look at the third tip in a moment that's going to explain how they might do that. So blame is number 1. Number 2, criticism. So when you're criticizing, you're probably doing the you statement also, but it's more like an attack on someone's character. You're mean, you're stupid, you're a bad teacher, you're a bad person. So it's telling them something that you don't like, something that you're calling bad or wrong, and kind of like name calling. So again, a good way to create distance, if you don't want to feel connected or close, you can blame and criticize. Let's go to the point number 3. The third mistake would be defensiveness. So if you get blamed or criticized, you are likely to respond, and anyone is, with defensiveness. So when we defend, it's like we're trying not to get hurt. We're putting up a wall and we're fighting back. We might attack back, we might blame back. We might point out what they did, or we might make excuses for what we did, trying to explain our actions or our thoughts. And so, again, defensiveness creates distance because it's not really connecting in. It's a way of creating more space between you. Moving along to the 4th one, needing to be right. So when you're needing to be right, again, we could say this is like your ego, the part of you that maybe feels insecure. And so needing to be right might looking like trying to prove your point, showing all the evidence for your point of view, the statistics, the science, whatever, all the facts, gathering everything from the past and trying to prove it. And also you might be trying to make the other person wrong, or trying to win an argument, trying to win the game. So all of these are probably, unless there's an agreement that we're playing a game, all of these are probably going to create more distance between you and the other person when you're especially trying to be right and make somebody else wrong. So just take a breath for a moment and notice if you're resonating with any of these, if you recognize yourself in these habits or somebody you're relating with. And instead of getting more defensive or blaming, just take a moment to breathe with it and acknowledge it and give yourself some love for, any bad habits that you picked up, any needs that you had to defend yourself or protect yourself, because most of this stuff comes from learned behavior or from a survival strategy. Let's move on to another one, which I call being indirect. So being indirect is where we don't give a straight answer. We might kind of beat around the bush, try and keep it vague. I don't know, whatever you think, it's cool, sounds good. Just kind of being wishy-washy and not coming up with a firm answer or opinion or a preference. So that is what I'm calling being indirect. And so it's kind of hard to reach you when you're being indirect. You feel like, kind of flitty, if that's a word. So let's move on. Next one, not listening attentively. Now, this is big and common in our culture, where we're often on the phone, we're doing 2 things at once or 3 things at once, eating, driving, talking, right? And so it's when you have divided attention, you cannot listen to somebody attentively. Listening attentively is like giving your full attention. So listening attentively is creating distance because you are like a step removed from somebody when you're doing that. Whether it's with a multitasking or some other way that you're kind of checked out, thinking about something else, whatever it is. Continuing on to self-referencing. So that would be my 7th point. Self-referencing is when you're in a conversation and someone shares something with you, and instead of really responding to what they said about their experience, you start talking about your own. Oh, I know how that is. This is how it's just like that for me. And here's my story about that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But what it does is kind of pull you down a different road, even though you're trying to relate and you are relating your story to theirs, but they probably don't feel that you really got where they're coming from. So that there can be some distance in that dynamic. So put a comment below if which one of these so far is really something that you're aware of and that you're wanting to change for yourself. Let's go on to the next one, which is keeping things on the surface or superficial. So kind of like small talk. Yeah, how are you? Cool. What's going on? Yeah, great. And it's a safe way to have a conversation, talking about the weather, talking about your kids, but it may not create connection on a deeper level. How are you feeling? What are you wanting? What's really going on? Might take it deeper. So keeping it on the surface is a way to keep some distance. And so just notice if that feels like something that's more comfortable for you than going deeper. And then moving on to my last point, my 9th communication mistake for you today, and I do change these up from time to time, is not taking responsibility for your part in a situation. So we do that when we're blaming or complaining, but we also can do that by just denying what we did or not really seeing it, not tuning in to how we may have contributed. So anytime we're doing that, not really owning, oh yeah, you're right, I was late, it's true, then there's usually some distance that's created between people because it feels almost like a lie. And when someone's lying to you and you know it, or they're not copying to something, it just feels like you can't trust them a little bit. So whenever we don't feel trusting of somebody, we're going to pull back, we're going to create distance. So put a yes in the comment below wherever you're watching, if this is making sense to you. If you have any questions, put your questions below. I'd be happy to answer them. And what I want to say is that I'm going to come back next week with some communication tips. So 3 tips to healthy communication. So look for that soon. And also coming up, you can catch my Rock Your Relationship Communication training. It's free, happening live on Zoom. I do hold the live sessions for women only because there's a special container or feeling that gets created when there's women only. So that's what we do. But if you don't identify as a woman, you're welcome to watch the videos. So sign up for the training. The link is going to be below. So yeah, click on that and you will get signed up for the Rock Your Relationship Communication training, which starts very soon. And it is chock full of communication tips to help you get heard, get understood, and create a closer connection and stay out of arguments, and also create more sweetness and closeness with those you want to be close with, especially your intimate partner. So, and if you don't have a partner, you'll still get a lot from the training. Women practice this with their parents, with their kids, with their friends, with their coworkers. So either way, you're going to get a lot out of it. So click that link to sign up for the Rock Your Relationship Communication training. And I really look forward to sharing that with you. Thanks for being with me tonight or whenever you're watching, and hope to see you soon.